Today, we are diving into Morgan Housel's absolutely incredible book, The Psychology of Money. And the reason is, its core idea is, well, it's revolutionary in just how simple it is. The idea is this: doing well with money has very little to do with how smart you are, and a whole lot to do with how you behave. It's not a hard science, it's a soft skill.
So, to really get a handle on this, let's kick things off with a story. A true story that pretty much flips everything we think we know about money completely on its head. It's a real-life puzzle, and it features two men from totally opposite ends of the spectrum.
All right, so on one side, you've got Ronald Reed. This is a guy who spent his life fixing cars and sweeping floors. He lived a really quiet life in a modest house. And then on the other side, you have Richard 𝐎𝐻𝐽. We're talking Harvard-educated, a top Merrill Lynch executive, one of those 40 under 40 financial wizards who retired in his 40s to become a philanthropist. I mean, you couldn't get more different, right? One had zero formal financial training, the other was at the absolute peak of the game.
Now get this, when Ronald Reed, the janitor, died back in 2014, this was his net worth: $8 million. Turns out he was one of less than 4,000 Americans that year to leave behind a fortune that large. And he left almost all of it to his local hospital and library, which, as you can imagine, absolutely floored everyone who knew him.
But here's where it gets really wild. Around the exact same time Ronald Reed's quiet fortune was being discovered, Richard 𝐎𝐻𝐽, the Harvard MBA, declared bankruptcy. The 2008 financial crisis hit him hard, and that, combined with the massive debt he'd built up to fund his lavish lifestyle, completely wiped him out.
So this is it. This is the central question of the whole book. How on earth does that happen? How does a janitor outperform a top finance executive? Was it just a fluke, dumb luck, or was there something deeper going on? Well, the answer reveals these hidden forces that really govern wealth, and, you guessed it, it all comes back to behavior. So how do we start to unravel this whole puzzle? Well, the very first piece is something we all kind of acknowledge, but maybe not in the right way. It's an invisible force we usually blame for failure, but almost never give credit for success. Just pure random luck.
Okay, take Bill Gates. The guy is a certified genius, right? No one's debating that. But he also had what you could call a 1 in a million head start. He just happened to go to Lakeside School, which was one of the only high schools on the entire planet that had a computer back in 1968. As Gates himself said, if there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft.
But here's the thing about luck. It has a sibling, a shadow that follows it everywhere, and that shadow is risk. So for every incredible story of good fortune, like Bill Gates, there's a tragic story of misfortune that we almost never get to hear about.
That brings us to Kent Evans. Kent was Bill Gates' best friend in high school. He was just as smart, just as skilled with that new computer, and just as ambitious. Gates was absolutely convinced that the two of them would have started Microsoft together. But Kent died in a mountaineering accident before he even graduated. Same world, same ambition, same forces at play, just on the complete opposite side of the coin.
So, what's the point of all this? It's that we have to realize that not all success is purely because of hard work, and not all poverty is because of laziness. Understanding that really forces you to be a little more humble when you succeed, and a lot more compassionate when you or other people fail.
And that brings us to the second and maybe the most powerful force in all of finance. This is the real secret behind Ronald Reed's quiet fortune. And what's amazing is, it wasn't one single brilliant decision he made. It was thousands of frankly boring decisions, supercharged by one incredible ingredient: time. Just take a look at this. It's fascinating. You have Warren Buffett, the legend, earning about 22% a year. But then you have Jim Simons, a hedge fund manager who, he might be the greatest investor of all time, compounding money at an insane 66% per year. But look, Buffett is vastly, vastly richer. How is that even possible? Well, Buffett started investing when he was 10 years old. Simons didn't really hit his stride until he was 50.
To see the true power of time, just try to wrap your head around this. If Jim Simons had Buffett's 75-year runway to compound at his 66% annual return, this is what his net worth would be. Yeah, that number is so absurd it doesn't even make sense. But it proves a crucial point. Good returns that you can sustain for an uninterrupted period of time will always, always beat amazing returns that get cut short.
And that's it, right there. Buffett's skill is investing, sure, but his secret weapon is time. His real success isn't just that he's a great investor, it's that he's been a great investor for 3/4 of a century. And that required one key behavior above all else: patience, just letting it ride. Okay, so now we can start to see why Richard 𝐎𝐻𝐽, the finance executive, went bust. He understood how to get big returns, but he completely misunderstood the crucial difference between looking like you have money and actually having it.
This gets to such a critical distinction in the book. Being rich, that's your current income. It's loud, it's visible, it's the fancy car, the huge house, it's what you spend. But wealth is quiet. Wealth is hidden. It's the money you don't spend. It's the cars not bought, the diamonds not worn. Wealth is the financial assets that are working for you quietly, behind the scenes, giving you security and freedom.
You know, think of it this way. Being rich is like going on a crash diet. You get these quick, visible results that everyone can see. But wealth is like exercise. It's a slow, disciplined process that builds lasting benefits over time. Richard Fuscone was rich. Ronald Reed, the janitor, he was wealthy.
So getting wealthy is one challenge, but staying wealthy? That's a whole different ballgame. It takes a completely different mindset, one that's really focused on survival. It's less about chasing these giant returns and more about just being durable. It's about having enough cash saved up in emergency funds so that you can ride out the inevitable storms. So you are never, ever forced to sell your investments at the worst possible moment, because that's what interrupts that critical compounding process.
And all of this brings us right back to where we started, to the core lesson that ties together the janitor, the executive, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett.
This is it. This is the whole thing in a nutshell. Ronald Reed wasn't smarter than Richard Fuscone. He just had better behavior. He was patient, he lived below his means, and he never, ever interrupted his compounding. And the amazing thing about that is that anyone can do it. Fuscone was a genius who let greed and impatience get the best of him. And in the end, that simple, boring, replicable behavior totally beats Ivy League intelligence.
This quote from Napoleon just perfectly captures the single most important financial skill. It's not about complicated spreadsheets or trying to predict the next big thing. It's about controlling your own emotions. It's about keeping your head when everyone else is freaking out, whether the market is crashing or soaring. Your behavior is the one edge you have that they can't teach you in a Harvard classroom.
And really, that's the ultimate takeaway. This book kind of acts like a mirror. It asks us to take a hard look at our own habits. Not our IQ, not our salary, but our behavior. Because once we really understand that, we unlock the real secret to building lasting wealth. So the question the book leaves you with is this: what's the one behavior that might be holding your finances back?